subject of our first session this afternoon is biodiversity case studies accessing global data sets to inform policy making and, of course, policy makers and perhaps also decision makers. This is hugely important. We've heard reference to evidence-based policymaking a number of times today, and I think we will try this afternoon to understand how that actually works, how it can be improved, and thereby, in my view, reducing the distance between the scientists who generate the data and the evidence and the policymakers who legislate based on that evidence. So thank you all very much. Now, just for technical reasons, we just moved the agenda down a little bit. I'm going to start with Aidin Niamir. Aidin, do you hear me?
The ward is ready.
Hello, Melinda. How are you?
Hi, I can hear you.
Wonderful, Aidin. And Aidin, we're delighted to obviously to have you here this afternoon. And Aidin is from the Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, otherwise known as IPBES. And we are all ears, Aidin. Thank you very much for making the time. And the screen is yours. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Let me share my slides. Would you please confirm that you can see my slides?
Yeah. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much for this opportunity, LifeWatch GBIF. My presentation will be mainly around the topic of transparency in science and policy. So transparency is a key word that I would like you to remember after these presentations. And I would take an example from IPBES, data management at IPBES, to a little bit explain how we deal with transparency in our field. And my name is Aidin Niamir. I'm the head of IPBES data. IPBES is an intergovernmental.
You're not full screen. If you'd like to go full screen, please.
I'm on the full screen. I'm not. Am I not?
Not showing up here. If you want to do this.
Okay, let me do it again.
I'm sure you have good graphics. We want to see them.
Do you see now my full screen?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, perfect. IPBES is an intergovernmental science policy platform. It means that government sits together and they mandate the scientific community to go through the scientific concepts and scientific findings and come up with the basis for the decisions through a solid, sound, reliable science. This is important to make sure that, this is important to make sure that if we want to have an informed, transparent decision-making process, on the other side, we should also provide an open and transparent science basis for that decisions. And therefore, in IPBES, we have a data and knowledge management policy, which is based on fair data principles, which we have heard it several times today in the previous presentations, mainly focusing on improved accessibility of its products and also provide transparency of the underlying processes. So fair, I'm not going to talk about it. We already discussed that and we have heard about that, which is very important. But since IPBES is about nature, biodiversity, and human well-being, it cannot be only discussed through academic classical knowledge type. There is always an indigenous people, local communities who contribute to the work of IPBES through their knowledge. So this policy is also based on a care data governance principles, which specifically says how to handle indigenous and local knowledge. I will explain one example. I trimmed my presentation because I realized that there are many topics that are already covered, so it's going to be short. As an example, one of the IPBES assessments that been published a few years ago is IPBES Global Assessment, and it consists of several chapters, supplementary materials, typical global assessment reports, and it's about 1,500 pages. And if we look at the underlying references from scientific publication, indigenous local knowledge, evidences, etc., these 1,500 pages is based on about 20,000 references. And indirectly, of course, would be about 200,000 items. Of course, a policymaker will not read that level of information. So scientific community, again, mandated to boil down all these findings in a very short, punchy, 50-page summary for policymakers. That would be the basis or kind of a basis for the decision. But this process need to stay still transparent because this is a very, very global findings. They would like to take these messages, take it to the country, to the region, and apply it there. So therefore, the process behind summarizing all the evidences into 50 pages should be very clear. For example, I picked one example from global assessment. This is key message number 27. As you see, there is a headline on top of the page, and then there are some statements supporting that headline. Every statement has a level of certainty. In this case, some scientific community believes that this statement is well established. And there are also numbers referring to the subsection beneath on every chapter supporting these statements. Now let's go to one of them. I pick only one. And you see that even that 2 paragraphs already referred in several publications, several other assessments, and now that we are talking about biodiversity, pretty sure that these papers are also based on many other GBIF records, OBIS records, and many other data sets that have been gathered and synthesized through these reports. I will stop here because that would be too much and would be out of the scope of this meeting. I would go back to my first slide and emphasize that transparency in science policy can only be achieved if we do all our best to be fair and care. That is very important to make sure that our process in providing basis for policymakers remain fair and care. The only thing I would like you to remember is these 4 points, and I will paste them also in the chat. So this presentation is available in the given address. I also posted in the chat. IPBES data management policy is also publicly available there. If you would like to contact IPBES data, please make sure to contact this email address. And at the moment, hosted by GBIF, there is a discussion happening at the discourse page of GBIF. I would like to invite all of you to attend this discussion. And one of the topics that we are discussing there is transparency in methods and data. And hopefully the outcome of this discourse will be something that we wrap up for the upcoming post-2020 framework, which will be discussed in Montreal on CBD. Thanks. Thank you very much. Back to you, Declan.
Thank you very much, Aidin. Very well. As you speak, and really, I think you shared valuable information, and indeed understanding how the process works. But I also wonder, as a general observation, I reflect sometimes that while evidence-based policymaking is absolutely vital, I wonder if the policymaking process itself is becoming highly politicized. And within that context, I wonder sometimes if perhaps policy evidence isn't appreciated sufficiently or used in the right way. And I think that will in future present challenges of how actually to advance evidence in an increasingly politicized democratic process. Thank you, Aidin. Very, very helpful. Thank you. I now would like to invite, what I would like to do is then we will hear from Ward Appeltans by video, I understand, and we're ready to roll. Is that correct? Yeah.
He's online too, but he's playing the video. So.
He's online. Yeah. Ward, say hello at least. Wave or something. There you are.
Oh,
all right. Okay. Yeah. With his lovely background. You're very welcome, Ward. Yeah.
So who has the video? Oh, over there, I see.
The opportunity to present on OBIS, the Ocean Biodiversity Information System, which runs under the auspices of UNESCO's Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission, or IOC. I am Ward Appeltans. I'm the head of the International OBIS Secretariat. The IOC was established by UNESCO in 1960. The IOC is a body with functional autonomy, which means that we have our own governing body, the Assembly, with 150 member states. The IOC can be seen as the ocean science body in the United Nations system. We are competent for marine scientific research, capacity development, and transfer of marine technology. We are also the custodian agency within SDG 14 and more specifically responsible for target 14A and 14.3. The IOC is also coordinating the UN Ocean Decade. OBIS started in 2000 under the Census of Marine Life program and was adopted by IOC in 2009. So for 22 years now, we have been building a central global data platform that provides free access to the world's ocean biodiversity and biogeographic data. The IOC member states recognize OBIS as the global open access data and information clearinghouse on marine biodiversity for science, conservation, and sustainable development. We provide access to more than 100 million observations of 164,000 marine species, from bacteria to whales, integrated from over 4,600 datasets. We see an explosion of new data, and since the last 2 years, since the COVID pandemic started, we added 50 million new observations. That is the same amount of data that we have been able to publish in the previous 20 years. This graph shows the amount of records per ocean volume and by time, starting from 1800. Of course, there's more data from the surface of the ocean, but since the 70s, and since the discovery of the deep sea vents, which are unique chemosynthetic ecosystems, there are more and more observations from the deep sea. And you can clearly see the explorations to the deepest parts of the ocean, like the Mariana Trench, which is 11 kilometers deep. Or, for example, the data gap during the Second World War. Beyond just species presence and absence, we also provide data on habitats, abundance and biomass, migration routes through tracking animals, and more recently also occurrences based on DNA sequencing. OBIS supports international collaboration and provides access and benefit sharing, which is illustrated here. You can see the country affiliations of the researchers that have collaborated together on publishing research papers using data from OBIS. And every day there is a new paper coming out. However, this graph showing the same data also highlights the digital divide. There are less papers published by developing countries, and the north-south and south-south connections are still too weak. We contribute to many international and UN-led assessments. However, detecting and reporting the change that is happening now is still in its infancy, and we remain mostly at the level of biodiversity description. Or in other words, we have not yet managed to develop a system that systematically monitors the change of biodiversity, a system like we have for monitoring and predicting the weather, for example. The amount of data in OBIS sounds amazing, but this is still just the top of the iceberg. In a recent study, a survey of around 200 long-term biological observing programs revealed that only half of them store their data in a long-term data repository, and only a quarter provide public access to their data. The most common argument is that they don't know how to standardize and publish their data in data repositories, or there are no resources to cover that extra step. With the Global Ocean Observing System, or GOOS, another program of IOC, and in partnership with MBON, we are working on a 10-year roadmap to build a global ocean biodiversity observing system that feeds the right information into the many assessments and policy frameworks, such as the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework, currently under negotiation at the CBD. This roadmap goes from developing the specifications and protocols to implementing new and innovative technologies and building capacity on the ground. This process for ocean biodiversity does not run in isolation, but builds on 30 years of experience in the physics domain, which now feeds data into the Global Climate Observing System, which was established already in 1992. So for biodiversity, we're at least 30 years behind the climate system. Training and developing capacity is essential, and creating this human connection is key to reaching our goals. Data management is often something that you learn on the job and is not taught at most universities. We're also developing forces in the field, like setting up an early detection system for marine invasive species in Fiji using environmental DNA. The data processing and bioinformatics pipeline is provided through our global OBIS system, so small island states do not have to invest in this data infrastructure. We recently partnered with the World Heritage Center to organize a big citizen science campaign to monitor biodiversity using environmental DNA in marine World Heritage sites. And we'll have 25 expeditions across the world in the first pilot phase of this program, which is sponsored by the Flanders government of Belgium. With good teamwork, we can make it happen. And I wish to thank the sponsors for their financial support. I want to thank the many scientists who share their valuable data and all the data managers at the national and regional OBIS nodes for processing the data before we ingest it into the global system. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ward, and congratulations on your excellent shepherding of this vital data. Thank you indeed. I would now like to turn to Professor Vladislav Popov at the Agricultural University of Plovdiv in Bulgaria. Professor Popov, do you read me? Come in, Vladislav. Okay, so let's keep moving. We will look for him later. Now we will have a team presentation with Lloyd Day of the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture, Mario Leon, Alvaro Ramos, and to my right, led by José Manuel Avila of LifeWatch, Eric. So who goes first? Is that Lloyd?
Yeah,
good afternoon, Lloyd.
Good afternoon. I think it's me. I think we agree that I'll give the comments and maybe they can chime in at the end of my brief remarks here, because I was told I only have 5 minutes. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be on planet Earth and participating in this event. Greetings from IICA, the Inter-American Institute for Cooperation on Agriculture, based here in beautiful San Jose, Costa Rica, where for now, the skies are still sunny and blue, but we're awaiting the inevitable afternoon rains, which may be very strong as they usually are this time of year. But that's okay. Water is life, and it helps to fuel the beautiful biodiversity of this country and this region of the world, the isthmus between North and South America, combining some of the most productive and biodiverse regions in the world. I hope all of you in New York, I think you're in the Chrysler building, have enjoyed a nice cup of coffee today. Please remember that that probably comes from a farmer here in the Americas, and that farmer is struggling to produce his or her crop while tackling all the challenges of a changing climate, not to mention many other external factors that I'm sure you're all discussing there in New York. At IICA, we represent the ministers of agriculture of the Americas, from Canada in the north to Argentina in the south, and 34 member states in between, including 14 in the Caribbean. It is a rich, diverse, and heterogeneous agricultural region, which is the breadbasket of the world, and where our Institute's role is to help promote agriculture and rural well-being for all of our citizens, our farmers, our ranchers. In this spirit, we're pleased to be partnering with LifeWatch ERIC and the Cooperatives of the America to establish a Center for Technological Competence for Cooperatives here at the IICA headquarters. Hopefully that translation was accurate, Mario and Alvaro. That will be here at the IICA headquarters in Costa Rica. And its goal will be to identify and promote projects to improve the use of digital technologies and data among agricultural cooperatives in the Americas, to enhance biodiversity, to protect the environment and fragile ecosystems, to promote ecosystem services, and to improve the productivity of family farms and their cooperatives to deliver safe, nutritious, and plentiful food to feed the region and the world. This collaboration will improve upon the relationship between Europe and the Americas to use all the tools at our disposal to achieve these objectives, while helping our farmers and ranchers produce better, while at the same time protecting the environment. Last year, IICA brought the Ministers of Agriculture of the Americas to the UN Food Systems Summit, delivering 16 clear messages based on 3 fundamental premises. First, that farmers were the pillars of the food system and must be supported. Second, that science must be the foundation for any public policy. I think someone was just discussing ideology. Can't base our public policies on ideology. And third, that agriculture must be viewed as part of the solution to our climate challenges. IICA is building upon this momentum to convene the Ministers of Agriculture next week here in Costa Rica to discuss the importance of agriculture and its place at the negotiating table of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. The climate crisis poses a tremendous threat to agriculture and food security worldwide and must be urgently addressed. Resilient agri-food systems are critical for feeding, clothing, and powering the world in a sustainable manner, as well as reducing poverty, providing livelihoods, and protecting natural ecosystems and biodiversity. Therefore, we are delighted to announce this partnership among IICA, LifeWatch ERIC, and the cooperatives of the Americas to help our family farmers and cooperatives develop the capacity to help protect our environment, utilizing the latest technologies and data being developed globally, while also helping to feed the world. The technology and know-how exists to help produce more while protecting our environment. But getting it into the hands of our farmers and ranchers is what's required, and that's a challenge, and that's why we're so grateful for the partnership with all of you, and why working together on this common goal is so important. Thank you for your attention. We look forward to working with all of you. As mentioned earlier, I'm joined by Alvaro Ramos of Uruguay and Mario León of Paraguay. Both are distinguished public officials from their respective countries and across the Americas. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat or feel free to ask us now, and we will try to respond as we can. Thank you.
I will continue. Thanks, Lloyd, for the first part of the talk.
I don't know if someone's responding, but I can't hear anything in the audio.
Can you hear me, Lloyd?
I can, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to talk. I'm sharing the screen. Sorry, just a second. Now, I think, yeah. Here I would like to continue the great talk from Lloyd Day, the IICA Here I would like to illustrate how we can support the transition to more sustainable and resilient agri-food systems based on collaborations, and I would like to take this opportunity to showcase some best practices, specifically about sustainable agriculture and agroecology, that we are leading in LifeWatch, but also now with collaboration with the IICA.
Can you admit Elisa or Alvaro? Yeah, sorry, people from. Yeah, okay. Sorry.
I can't.
Go ahead.
Okay. So just brief. It's really it's well known that common agriculture, modern agriculture, it's based on high external inputs and it caused a lot of different externalities that are massive deforestation, water scarcities, biodiversity loss, soil depletion, high level of greenhouse gas emissions, anti-inequality, etc. Integral to FAO's vision, agroecology can be a part of this solution, trying to solve this climate of instability that now with the last issues that we are seeing worldwide, it's really dramatic. So we need to rethink our agri-food system, trying to promote the transition to more sustainable agri-food systems, trying to not let anyone behind. Agroecology is considered a science of ecological processes applied to agricultural production systems, benefiting from the interplay between science, technology, and traditional or indigenous knowledge. This is a concept that it was repeated several times in different interventions. The local knowledge is essential because we need to develop agriculture systems that are adapted to the localities. It's also considered a practice, several good practices, a science, and also we need to collect information from the society and give again this information to the society. What we are doing in LifeWatch. In LifeWatch, we are developing several projects on agroecology and sustainable agriculture, and we do that in collaboration. It's essential, the collaboration. We want to work with our community to provide to them the best services possible, and also collecting from them their needs. So we launched the MetaWatch. It's our working group that with the objective to promote and facilitate this transition toward agroecology through the use of digital tools and networking, right? So here we collaborate with the different countries that are part of LifeWatch, as Christos mentioned before, with special, for example, collaboration with Professor Popov and his team, with a lot of efforts put in on agroecology for the last year, or for example, the note from Portugal with of Pedro Beja and others that are also well contributors, really enthusiastic on these sustainable agricultural systems. And with these things, we are also, and inside of LifeWatch, we are also collaborating with other contributors outside LifeWatch areas. Here we bring two different European Union projects, Horizon Europe projects. One is already it's creating a pilot network of collaborators in living labs and research infrastructure. The European Commission puts a lot of effort and the focus on research infrastructure and living labs to foster this transition towards agroecology, and we are part of this pilot network. And we are benefiting also from this pilot network to create our tools or the tools for knowledge sharing, for networking creation, and data management and knowledge management, taking the inputs directly from them in a co-creation process and also giving to them this tool for the use of them. And an evolution of this project, it's AgroServe, and it's a project in which more than 74 partners of 11 big research infrastructure across Europe are working all together, just started some days ago, to provide integrated services and multidisciplinary service among all of us for the next 5 years. So And LifeWatch sharing, it's part of these two big initiatives. But not only in Europe, we check. We aim the collaboration across the world. So we have really tight collaboration with indigenous knowledge research infrastructure. It will be mentioned later on really soon with CANEUS, FILAC, UNOSA, and Arab Science and LifeWatch sharing, which we need to take information. We need to collect all the information that was collected by the farmers for a lot of decades, centuries. They know their soils. They know how to grow their fields. No? So we need to take this information, and this information it's really well conserved in, for example, Latin American, Caribbean, and in Africa. We need to look them and provide to them our tools that we already developed to help them to contribute to knowledge sharing, but also to collect from them all their knowledge to support this sustainable agriculture. And now it was announced by Juanmi and also by Lloyd. It started a new collaboration, an exciting collaboration with IICA, which we want to work together with these family farmers, with these local farmers, and trying to support them towards more sustainable agri-food systems. And just to summarize this, I don't have a lot of time. We want to summarize our main objectives in these three levels. The strategic one, we need to work with key global actors, the actors that are contributing to this transition, to implement these agroecology principles in agricultural practices and policies. We need research to support these kind of policies. And this is strategically, tactically, we cannot reinvent the wheel. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We want to capitalize all the information, all the tools, all the services that already exist, all the community best practices that already exist. And what we want is to put all of them together, to collaborate with them and to help them to exchange their knowledge and to contribute also to the networking. And how we are going to do that with or LifeWatch Tesseract virtual research environment, also using LifeBlog with the idea to contribute to the knowledge sharing, to the networking, and the data and innovation management among all the different actors to guarantee this transition towards sustainable agri-food system based, of course, on this kind of collaboration. So that's it.
So next is Mario Leon.
No, you mean everything. It's the next speaker.
Oh, very good. Very good.
If you go back to Vladislav, if he's...
Vladislav, do you hear me? No, I've been messaging him, so we keep trying. I now go to Pedro Beja. Pedro?
Hello, good afternoon. I will share my screen. Let's see if it works. Sorry, it is this one. I'm maximizing. Are you seeing the presentation or?
Yes.
Okay, so good late afternoon here in Portugal from where I'm talking. I will present a case study, an initiative that is more bottom-up than the others that we have just heard. But I think it's important in the way that it works with locals and tries to bring data collection, transform it into knowledge and provide information. So we are a research center in biodiversity and genetic resources located in the north of Portugal. And we have been working and developing collaborative biodiversity research in sub-Saharan Africa with a particular focus on Portuguese-speaking African countries, but not only. And it all started in Angola in October 2012 in what we call a Twin Lab initiative, which means making partnerships with labs in different countries in Africa, establishing these long-term mutual these win-win partnerships where we both learn from each other. And it's more than just going there and doing research, is really to work together to collect biodiversity data. So this started in 2012, and now we have a network of twin labs that spans, for instance, several countries in Southern Africa and also in West Africa, such as Guinea-Bissau, São Tomé, and also what we call UNESCO Share Life on Land that was granted by UNESCO to the University of Porto, in which we are based. So the idea is really to link people, laboratories, fieldwork, to link the persons from our lab and those from the labs in Africa, to exchange, to go there and to make their researchers come to our lab, to build trust, to share knowledge, to provide joint research, to train students, that is a very important aspect, and to promote education, science, culture. So this involves a number of activities from leveraging biological collections. We are working with several museums that are legacies of that have collected natural history over several decades, from, for instance, the Lubango Museum in the southwestern Angola to the Bulaio Museum in Zimbabwe, where we are helping collecting data and to support the preservation of collection that is a huge source of biodiversity information. Then we also are undertaking collaborative field research from charismatic animals such as the wild dogs or leopards in the south of Angola, or chimpanzees and elephants in Guinea-Bissau, or pigeons and invasive rats in São Tomé and Príncipe. And we are also doing rapid biodiversity surveys together with locals from poorly known regions, from the Afro-montane forests of Angola to areas of lost gorillas, where we found isolated populations of gorillas in the forests of Cabinda, or doing aquatic biodiversity monitoring based on environmental DNA in Namibia. All this ends in open repositories. So this is one of the aspects of our activities, try to make available this information, and also information that was locked in gray literature published in the 50s and in the 60s. And we are trying to recover that information and publish it in GBIF. For instance, this is an example on the bibliographic records of Angola mammals. But we all work towards bringing this data available to everybody. And also in these collaborative efforts, we are transforming data into knowledge, because data in itself is nothing. So it's a good start, but it's only when we transform it in knowledge that is useful. And we are taking two threads, I would say. One is mainstream scientific research, so just publishing scientific papers in international journals, but also providing syntheses that can be used by local students and local interested people. For instance, you see there a book on the biodiversity of Angola that we have published online open in Springer, but also have published in Portuguese to be used by Angolan students. The same with biodiversity of Cape Verde and also the Gulf of Guinea, Oceanic Islands, where we are also working to produce it in Portuguese. Another book that was a huge success was this venomous serpents of Angola, and we are also doing for other countries, because there is no reference literature and how to identify species that are dangerous and how to deal with that. We are also building lab capacity, so for helping using more advanced techniques. So we are working towards creating a lab, a molecular lab in Namibia, in the University of Namibia, and we are helping to provide equipment, but also training. We are bringing there our researchers, but also bring technicians and researchers to our labs to learn how to do these techniques. And this was very useful for during the COVID period, because we have trained technicians in Angola and Namibia to do COVID analysis. We've done it online, but also benefiting from our past contacts. Finally, we are doing a lot of training, both field courses in different countries, from again, environmental DNA sampling in Namibia to snake identification in São Tomé and Príncipe to wildlife identification in Guinea-Bissau, because it is these people that can help us and scale up the collection of biodiversity data. And we are also coordinating a program that is called Consortium of Schools for Biodiversity, where the Portuguese government is offering 20 PhD grants a year for students coming from Portuguese-speaking African countries, where we do training. Or the first batch of students was just selected and will start their studies this year in universities across Portugal, but also doing their work and doing their training in their own countries, where they work on themes related to their interests. And this is all. There's much additional information on these links that I can share later. And thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Pedro.